It is a beautiful Thursday, and Thursday ends with Y. You know what days that end with Y mean. That means we are going to get a real money fantasy football draft underway. Last night we had some pretty good drafts. Last night we had some pretty good teams, and let's hop into this. Looks like this is going to be filled right away. I'm sorry if you were unable to get in this draft. Maybe we'll fire up another one after this, but we get the 105. Hell yes. I think the 105 is one of the best spots you can be picking at this year, considering the fact that you do lock yourself into one of Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp. Obviously, you're not really getting Taylor or CMC, but you are going to be able to get one of those tier one wide receivers legitimately guaranteed to you. So let's see if we can build a monstrous team from the 105. Also, it looks like we are not going to be drafting with too many very experienced drafters. It looks like we have no other experience badges in this draft with us, which, of course, I don't want to say this out loud, but probably a pretty good thing. We probably don't want to be going up against those experienced drafters if we're trying to build a complete monster of a team. But real quick, if you, for whatever reason, don't know what we are doing here, if you, for whatever reason, somehow, some way, are the last person on planet Earth that has not signed up for Underdog Fantasy, that is not having fun in these real money best ball drafts every single day, that have no time commitment at all during the season, make sure you fix your life. Go down there, sign up for Underdog Fantasy through the link in the description of the video or through the comment section. And when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy and you use promo code FLOCK, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And you will get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide with legitimately just a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy. That's almost 300 pages of very quality information to help you dominate your fantasy football draft. So please take advantage of that. But here we are going to take advantage of that Jamar Chase value at 5. Obviously, Chase goes at 5 in almost every single one of these drafts. It's not like we are getting Chase here and we are going to be the only team that ever had Jamar Chase make it to him at pick 5. But I really like the idea of going and grabbing that elite level wide receiver here at the very beginning, especially on Underdog, where we are confident that we are going to have some running back value making it back to us. We'll have David Montgomery in the 5th. We'll have Josh Jacobs potentially in the 6th. Hell, I've seen Dobbins fall to the 6th round as well, whereas the wide receivers in that range are going to be absolutely disgusting. But Stephon Diggs goes at 8. Really not too many surprises so far in this live draft. I don't even think we really have to talk about this draft so far through the first 8 picks because it's been so standard. Let me give a shout out to a couple people out here in the stream. Of course, thank you so much for everyone coming out so early and hanging out with me every single night. I genuinely look forward to, oh my God, guys. I was about to just thank y'all, but I got to address this. Josh Allen goes at pick 9 here. Looks like we may have a rogue drafter. Looks like we may be building a juggernaut. Let's see what happens. Dalvin Cook goes at 10. I mean, with Josh Allen going at 9, we probably are going to get some value making it back to us at pick 20, especially if you consider the fact that maybe this team goes crazy yet again at pick 16. You have Kelsey going at 12, so it looks like Najee Harris is going to be falling to the 2nd round. I do expect that to happen more often going forward, but Herbert goes at 13. Oh, dear God. Dear God. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be an awesome draft. We titled this live stream an awesome 2022 fantasy football draft. I got a feeling we are going to be coming away with a pretty great team here. Najee Harris goes at 14. I actually started a draft yesterday morning with Derrick Henry at like pick 10 and then Najee Harris at pick 15. Of course, a real money fantasy football draft. We only do real money drafts. I'm never going to hop in a mock draft whenever we can draft against real people with real money on the line on Underdog Fantasy. There's absolutely no reason to hop in a mock draft. And then we have Corey coming out and says, what is the point of best ball if they update your lineup automatically? My man, with best ball, what is so nice is you don't have to have that time commitment during the season. So because they don't have the waiver wire, because you go 18 rounds deep, guys like Velus Jones Jr. are going to be getting drafted. and you don't submit your starting lineup, that's automatically done for you at the end of every week. That's going to allow you to, if you want to be crazy like me, hop into 300, 400 drafts this year, prove that you're a better drafter, perfect your draft strategy. And then for those leagues that you really care about, your home league with all your buddies, hell, you're still going to be able to go ahead and dominate your league mates in the draft because you have been going up against real people in real money fantasy drafts this offseason when they haven't. And also you'll still have the time to be able to look over your teams, to be able to submit your starting lineup, do your waiver claims during the season and those leagues that you really care about. So my man, I think that best ball here on Underdog Fantasy is the perfect thing. And here we got to take Aaron Jones, right? Aaron Jones making it to us at pick 20. Dear God, I can't talk. And Aaron Jones is, come on, he's the thumbnail of this live stream, okay? We already had him as the thumbnail. Looks like this was just going to be a sign that we are getting Aaron Jones making it back to us. And if we go ahead and if I pull up our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, I have one statistic with Aaron Jones that I really want to point out to y'all. And this is how I would recommend using our draft guide. Like I said, it's nearly 300 pages of, in my opinion, the most important fantasy football stats and really takeaways that you can have for your drafts. And if you're on the clock and you're like, okay, do I want Aaron Jones? You just go hit that control F with Aaron Jones and I'll list out the reasons why you should draft Aaron Jones versus the red flags and why you shouldn't draft him. And if we look at the bullish side of the argument for Aaron Jones here, he's played 50 games with Davante Adams throughout his NFL career. And in those 50 games, he's still very impressive. 15.99 fantasy points per game. He's also averaged 3.7 targets per game. So he's a running back getting involved as a passer, of course. But in the 7 games that you've had no Davante Adams in Green Bay, Aaron Jones bumps up his targets per game from 3.7 to 6.7. He bumps up his points per game from 15.99 to almost 26. This team's going to have to heavily lean on Aaron Jones. Even if A.J. Dillon has a large role in Green Bay, hell, that Aaron Jones passing down role is going to be freaking massive. I think we can be very excited about Aaron Jones. And are we getting A.J. Brown making it back to us here at pick 29? I'm going to be happy to take A.J. Brown, pair him up with Jamar Chase. Now, of course, I have to admit, yes, there are concerns with the quarterback situation. There are concerns with the overall passing volume in Philadelphia. But A.J. Brown, an elite level talent, going over to our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. Let's control F here, find this A.J. Brown chapter, which I think you are going to be very impressed with this A.J. Brown chapter, and that we can go through and we can look at wide receivers that have been able to average 2.7 yards per route run over the past 3 years. There have been 3 guys: A.J. Brown, Davante Adams, and Justin Jefferson. That is the type of talent that A.J. Brown is. I understand going over to Philadelphia, not an ideal situation. It's another low passing volume attack that instead of your top target competition for A.J. Brown being an injured Julio Jones, a.k.a. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, you're going up against Devontae Smith, you're going up against Dallas Goedert. There is some serious target competition now for A.J. Brown, but if he wasn't in that bad situation, A.J. Brown would be a player going at the end of round 1. He would be a player going at the beginning of round 2. So yes, it's a bad situation, but we are getting a decent discount on A.J. Brown because it's a bad situation. And if I go over and look at the negative side of our A.J. Brown profile in our 2022 fantasy football draft guide and why you shouldn't be drafting A.J. Brown, we can look at the Philadelphia Eagles as a team that was second in the NFL in rush to pass ratio in game neutral environments. This is a team that wants to run the ball over and over again. Of course, Jalen Hurts only had 6 games with 200 passing yards or more. So that's not ideal, but we can assume that the offense is more pass happy with A.J. Brown coming over. I still think they're a rush first attack, especially with the best offensive line in football. But I'm excited about Brown. And now we have Josh Jacobs going at pick 36. Ezekiel Elliott at 37. Okay, Jacobs is a player that is legitimately my most drafted player on Underdog. Like, I never thought I would be the Josh Jacobs guy. I never thought I'd be the Josh Jacobs truther. But on Underdog Fantasy, he goes in the 6th round in every single one of these drafts. This is the earliest I've ever seen Josh Jacobs go. So I think this will continue to push value down. Like, thank you for taking Herbert where you did, allowing us to get Aaron Jones. Thank you for taking Josh Jacobs where you did to allow us to find our next value in this draft. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But Waddle off the board to pick 40. Oh, dear. You got to be kidding me, right? Okay, Pitts is off of the 4. If we somehow had Kyle Pitts making it to us, I would have lost my mind. We got to look at this team here. I'll show it to y'all after we make this pick. But this team has Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs, Michael Pittman Jr., Kyle Pitts added to that mix. That is a monstrous team. Gabriel Davis off the board. Not considering Gabriel Davis, of course. We will go ahead. We'll take Terry McLaurin. Now that he has his contract extension, I am going to be willing to go ahead and take a quarterback if they are available to us here in the 5th round, whether that's Mahomes, whether that's Lamar. I would like a quarterback in this range. Looking at where Josh Allen and Justin Herbert went in this draft, I'm slightly concerned that we may see these teams at pick 9 and pick 13 start reaching and taking their second quarterback way too early and skewing this entire draft board. So if we have an elite level QB making it to us in round 5, I'm going to go ahead. I am going to take him. But look at that team that comes from pick 8. Look at that team at pick 8. I like our team with Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, and Terry McLaurin at receiver and Aaron Jones at running back. But team 8 has Stephon Diggs, Michael Pittman Jr. at wide receiver, Joe Mixon at running back, and most importantly, that value on Kyle Pitts that they have is legitimately absurd. I am so jealous of that. But we have some more wide receivers going off the board, which honestly, at the beginning of the 5th, I'm not a massive fan of the wide receiver value. Like, I'm not going to be taking Allen Robinson over Darren Waller, Allen Robinson over Cam Akers, Allen Robinson over Patrick Mahomes. I understand a lot of people are all in on this Allen Robinson price tag, thinking he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver in Los Angeles, and they're willing to take Allen Robinson over Darren Waller and Patrick. It can't be me. That can't be me. We are going to go ahead and, like we said, we wanted one of those quarterbacks or one of those tight ends. We end up getting that player. If we wouldn't have gone George Kittle, I'm going to be passing on all the wide receivers in this range. Instead, we would have decided to go with David Montgomery. But Kittle's going to be fine here because if you look at our pass catchers at this point, we have set ourselves up with a couple different options in terms of our quarterbacks that we can go after. Hell, if you want to give us Jalen Hurts at pick 68, I will happily take Jalen Hurts at pick 68. If you want to give us Joe Burrow at pick 77, I will happily take Joe Burrow at pick 77. If you want to give us Aaron Rodgers in either the 9th or 10th round, I will happily take Aaron Rodgers there. If you want to get us Trey Lance at pick 92, I will happily take Trey Lance there. Like, we have so many different potential stacks for our quarterbacks and still having upside at the QB position that I am very excited about that. It's nice to see Dalton Schultz go directly after we take George Kittle. Like, can we address this? Can we address the fact that Dalton Schultz and Kittle are going within 2 picks of each other? I understand Kittle's in a bad situation. Lance is going to be a quarterback that, while I love from a fantasy football standpoint because Lance in his own rushing upside, and I do believe Lance could be the quarterback 1 overall in fantasy this year and have access to a similar type ceiling of what we are seeing from Lamar Jackson. However, I'm not sitting here saying Lance is going to be an above average passer at the NFL level. In terms of the passing volume, I'm not going to get there with Lance. Also, Kittle does have target competition. He has Deebo Samuel. He has Brandon Ayuk. And this is going to be a run-first offense. I understand the situation's gross for Kittle. The situation for Dalton Schultz is better than you could ever imagine. Literally, if you would to go through and just go into Madden, go into like a lab and try to create a situation for a tight end in fantasy to be an elite level option, you would put them in the number 1 offense in the NFL in pace of play, an offense that throws the ball over and over and over again, an offense that their second wide receiver is going to be missing the beginning portion of the season due to a torn ACL at the end of last year. Their I don't even know what you want to call Amari Cooper. Their number 1B wide receiver is off to another team. Like, you draw up the perfect situation for Dalton Schultz. I get it. But from a talent perspective, if we look at George Kittle over the past 3 years, George Kittle leads the NFL in yards per route run at 3.06. Now, if you compare this to Dalton Schultz, while Dalton Schultz is in a great situation, I'll admit it, I have Dalton Schultz ranked as my tight end 6. I just don't understand why they're going so close to each other. Dalton Schultz, his yards per route run, of course, all this can be found in our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy to have some fun. Hop in a draft with us, and with promo code FLOCK and a $10 deposit, you get it matched dollar for dollar up to $100. So it's essentially free for you, and you get our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. But Dalton Schultz, 1.45 yards per route run. Less than half of George Kittle. That is the craziest thing ever, in my opinion. Entertainment coming out says, Mason, why did you take Terry McLaurin over Deontay Johnson? It really does come down to the fact I'm going to be drafting over 400 of these teams. If you look at Terry McLaurin in the majority of these drafts is going to be going at the very beginning of the 4th since he signed that contract extension, whereas you're getting Deontay Johnson as a player that is consistently falling to the end of the 4th. If I'm going to pull up where I have these guys ranked in our 2022 fantasy football rankings, I have Deontay Johnson ranked ahead of Terry McLaurin. I do need to admit that, and it's by a decent margin as well. But if I want to have a somewhat balanced portfolio, we are going to have to go ahead. We're going to have to take Terry McLaurin sometimes over Deontay Johnson. And Rashad Bateman is someone, if you look at my draft guide, that I'm going to have ranked way lower than consensus. But I think it is crazy when he goes to pick 54. Rashad Bateman's ADP is pick 54. Here we're taking him at 68. We're getting him 14 picks behind his ADP. I'm fine grabbing another wide receiver here. I do think there are serious concerns with Rashad Bateman. Speaking of yards per route run, Rashad Bateman, 1.3 yards per route run this past season. 1.3 yards per route run. I understand he had the groin injury before the year started. I understand there are some excuses you can make for him. And yes, you do have an opening with no Hollywood Brown. I think overall, when Rashad Bateman on average is going before George Kittle in some of these drafts, people are dramatically overreacting to the loss of Hollywood Brown in this offense. But player falls 14 picks past his ADP. I'm going to have to go ahead. I'm going to have to take Bateman here. We have Stafford going early. We have Lance going early. We have Russell Wilson going early as well. Of course, it would have been really nice for us to get Jalen Hurts. You can't get everything you want. So at this point, we really want Joe Burrow making it back to us. We have Joe Burrow stacked up with Jamar Chase potentially. Here's the order of the players that we want this draft. Just give us one of these 3 guys, preferably Burrow. I'm going to prefer Burrow out of this range. John coming out with a donation. Thank you, my man. Says, Shefty came out today saying Dalton Schultz didn't re-sign with the Cowboys. You know, Dalton Schultz is with the Cowboys this upcoming season. Dalton Schultz is under the franchise tag, so it's in question if Dalton Schultz is going to sign a long-term extension there. I honestly don't necessarily think that matters for his fantasy football value this upcoming season, regardless of what the context of that long-term extension is. Of course, you need to be on the lookout for that for his dynasty fantasy football value, but for 2022, it's kind of whatever. Cloudsy coming out says, hey Mason, I've been watching your streams almost every night. Keep up the good work. Thank you, my man, for coming out. I appreciate you. Hopefully you can hop in one of these drafts with us soon. But Devonta Smith off the board. Oh God. Okay. We don't get our guy. It is what it is. Okay. So let's go ahead and do we take London or Gibson? We'll take Antonio Gibson. I'm not reaching on Brady. We don't have anybody from Tampa. I'm not reaching on Dak here. If either one of them fall, we'll take them. I think Antonio Gibson as a running back too is fine. I definitely have my own concerns with Antonio Gibson. What is nice here is we already have Terry McLaurin in this roster, so we are essentially doubling down on our Washington football team bet, or Washington Commanders, whatever the hell you want to call them. Here with Antonio Gibson, we talked about it after the NFL draft. Based on the investment of Brian Robinson Jr. and also what the coaching staff has said, I do think we need to be concerned about Antonio Gibson. He does have very real red flags. But at the same time, if you look at Antonio Gibson and the fact that this is a running back that went out there, and I'll pull him up in our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Go get our draft guide by signing up for Underdog or heading over to flockfantasy.com. Here, if you're looking at Antonio Gibson, this is a running back that has expanded his role with his target share per game over the past 2 years, as well as his carry percentage per game in this Washington offense. And he ran a 4.39 40-yard dash at 228 pounds. Gibson does truly have access to a ceiling that not many other players in fantasy does. And if I were to tell you, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm not going to say this is happening, but we can acknowledge that it's a possibility. How surprised would you truly be if I came out and told you, you know what? A former collegiate wide receiver transitioned over to the running back position, and it took him 3 years. 3 years to really fully understand the running back position and to completely develop. He was an elite level size adjusted athlete. He was a unbelievable raw athlete. He was raw getting to the NFL. It took him 3 years to put it together. How surprised would you actually be if that did happen with Antonio Gibson? I think it's definitely a possibility. So I have been taking Antonio Gibson in the middle of the 7th. Let me see my percentage ownership on Gibson. I don't think it's going to be that high because we weren't taking him too often when he was going at the beginning of the 6th earlier this offseason. So I feel like we will be kind of balanced with Antonio Gibson and we won't have him in too many of these leagues. But I have felt myself drafting Antonio Gibson a lot here because I do think that if he could put it together, specifically with his pass protection, and he can stay on the field for third downs, then all of a sudden Antonio Gibson does have the elite level ceiling. Yeah, we have Antonio Gibson in 9% of drafts. Like I said, I don't think we were really drafting him that long ago, but here in the middle of the 7th round, I'm completely fine with it. Okay, so after we see a little bit of a run on quarterbacks here still with Brady and Dak, we have some crazy picks. I can't get behind it. We're looking at Pollard, Damian Harris, and Kareem Hunt over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a player that has fallen in drafts considerably over the past 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, I'm drafting Clyde Edwards-Helaire very often. Now that CEH goes behind, not Damian Harris and Kareem Hunt in every single draft. He'll go behind Damian Harris in some of these drafts, never goes behind Kareem Hunt. This person drafting at the 112 is completely lost here. But he always goes behind Tony Pollard. I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire in 9% of drafts now. We weren't drafting him at the beginning of the offseason, but now that he's falling, I am going ahead. I'm taking a decent amount of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Don't be surprised when I take him here at pick 92. We do need to be on the lookout for Aaron Rodgers to get that stack up with Aaron Jones. But let's look at this. And, oh, dear God, I'm going to be so embarrassed if I have to do it. This is our game plan. Okay, Miles Sanders gone. It is what it is. 9 out of 10 times, I'm passing on Allen Lazard here, and I never even think about it, right? 9 out of 10 times, I pass on Lazard. Never even crosses my mind to think to draft Allen Lazard over the potential starting running back for the Kansas City Chiefs, or even over a potential tight end 1 here in TJ Hawkinson. Hawkinson's been the tight end 6 on a points per game basis, and back-to-back years now stepping in to his prime, stepping into his 5th year. Allen Lazard's gone. Thank God. Thank God I don't even have to consider Allen Lazard. I was going to say maybe, just maybe, we go Lazard if he were to fall a ridiculous 12 picks in his ADP, probably to a more reasonable price point, and then we get Rodgers on the way back around, and we get the double stack between Aaron Jones, Allen Lazard, and Aaron Rodgers. But instead, we're going to get Hunter Renfrow here. We put out a TikTok earlier today saying that, you know what, I am not a big fan of drafting Hunter Renfrow there at the end of the 7th round when we can get Tyler Boyd just 2 rounds later, because I do think Tyler Boyd and Hunter Renfrow are very comparable players this upcoming season. They're both guys that are going to be the number 3 option in pretty pass-happy offenses that should be productive overall. But you're getting Boyd at a massive discount. And I would rather have the player attached to Joe Burrow compared to the player attached to Derek Carr. But anyway, Hunter Renfrow here falls, 13 picks, passes ADP. We're fine grabbing another wide receiver. Let's take Renfrow here. Plan A is if Clyde Edwards-Helaire somehow, some way falls, we'll be going ahead. We'll be taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire. If not, let's go ahead and let's fire up Aaron Rodgers, pick 101. Golden says, how much money are these fantasy football leagues? Underdog Fantasy has anything from the smallest stakes leagues where there are $3 buy-in drafts to I am currently in a $500 draft. I need to see how far away I am from being on the clock in that $500 draft because I have not checked that at all today. The super high stakes drafts like the $500 one, those are going to be slow drafts where it is a very long timer. Here, okay, I'm about 4 picks away. 4 picks away, not too many intriguing players available, but we'll figure it out. Dawson Knox goes off the board at pick 97. I'm not considering Dawson Knox at all. Tyler Boyd goes directly after. I think this is about where you should have it. I think you should have the combination of Tyler Boyd and Hunter Renfrow going pretty close to each other in drafts. They seem like similar talents and similar profiles to me. Okay, do we reach on Rodgers? if we were to pass on Rodgers, let's think through this. What other quarterbacks could we pair with the team that we have right now? We could look at Carson Wentz, get the double stack with McLaurin and Gibson. We can look at Derek Carr in the next round. Rodgers is off the board, so never mind. I guess we can't get Rodgers. This team here, I don't know if they are, I guess they're probably watching the live stream and trying to snipe us. We'll look at their team in just 1 second, because if they're watching the live stream trying to snipe us, hell, I'll give them a shout out. I'll give them a shout out if you matters that much to you. But here, obviously, we want to get that Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase stack. They take Joe Burrow 1 pick before us. And after already having Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow at quarterback, they decide to reach about 7-8 players on ADP to go ahead and grab Aaron Rodgers, so we can't get the Aaron Jones stack. It is what it is. It's the price of live streaming. We'll figure it out. We'll take Dallas Goedert here. We'll get some correlation with that Philadelphia Eagles overall passing offense, even though, of course, we would rather have Jalen Hurts, but we do have A.J. Brown, so it is what it is. Okay. Dog coming out says, Mason did underdog update. It looks weird. Let me know, does our stream look different than usual? Maybe I have the Google Chrome layout a little bit larger. Let me know if this looks different than usual to y'all. And if so, I will try to go ahead and I'll fix it. But thank you for bringing that to my attention, my man. Clutch Gal says, if anything, the guy's just trying to make his team worse. Yeah, he's like a suicide bomber in here, trying to hurt us, take his team out at the same time. But you know what? My man, you do you. I'm going to do me. I still think we built a very good team so far if we are going to look at this. So let's go through and scroll this down. Okay, people are telling me the font looks a little bit different. I don't notice it, but it is what it is. Here at wide receiver, we have Chase, A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, Rashad Bateman, and Hunter Renfrow. Running back, we have Aaron Jones and Antonio Gibson. Pretty good tight end core. 2 tight ends that are going to be on low volume passing attacks, which of course we don't like, but they are hyper efficient players in terms of their yards per route run and have been throughout their entire NFL careers with Kittle and Dallas Goedert. So I'm pretty excited about this team. Of course, quarterback's going to be a major concern. I think at this point, we're definitely going to be drafting 3 quarterbacks. Of course, we're drafting 3. Pretty much, if I don't get one of those top end guys, I would even call the tier break probably Dak Prescott. If I don't get Dak Prescott, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draft 3 QBs. Now, if I can, of course, come away with 2 guys that we really like, if we can get like a Jalen Hurts and a Dak Prescott, then we're only drafting 2. But at this point, I think we're locked and loaded into 3. And I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal either, because we have our 2 top end tight ends, so we don't have to draft the 3rd. Okay, so let's see. James says, hey, Mason, got a question. If I join Underdog and put in $10, do I get the draft guide? Yes, if you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, go through the link in the description, go through the link in the live chat, use promo code FLOCK, and you will get our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide with a $10 deposit. Just make sure you check your email. Make sure you check your email, and it'll be sent to you from Underdog about an hour after you sign up. Okay, so let's see what these teams decide to do. I would actually really like Christian Watson here, considering the fact that we are kind of betting in on this Green Bay Packers offense with Aaron Jones. And also, I like the upside play of Christian Watson in a hyper-efficient offense as a player that, while yes, definitely had his red flags as a prospect coming into the NFL, at the same time has an upside shot. We can admit that Christian Watson does have a fair upside shot. But real quick, let me ask something from y'all. If you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on the live stream. I have to bump it up a little bit because I told my girlfriend we would cut the stream short tonight because I've been streaming, for like 3 drafts every single night. So if we get 250 likes in the live stream, we'll be firing up another draft after this one. 250 likes in the live stream. This live stream is at over 1,000 views. We're asking for about 20 to 20%. About 20% people to go down there and drop a like on it. So if you're enjoying it, it's simple. Drop a like. If you're not enjoying it, you don't really care about seeing another one, it's simple. Just keep on watching. You do you. You're just here to hang out. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Melvin Gordon here, pick 116. Melvin Gordon is a running back that I really like, and that if you look at his role in Denver last year, Melvin Gordon had a larger role than Javonte Williams. Now, of course, Javonte will be the starting running back this upcoming season. Melvin Gordon will still be in a committee, and Melvin Gordon will have a smaller role in said committee. But at the same time, if you were to have an injury to Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon has an elite level ceiling. So I almost look at Melvin Gordon as an older version of, say, a Tony Pollard. Like if you're looking at Tony Pollard here going at pick 80 and us getting Melvin Gordon at pick 116, in terms of the range of outcomes of these two players, I do think they're pretty comparable. I would not have taken Ramondre Stevenson if Ramondre Stevenson was best available. I would have passed on Stevenson in favor of Christian Watson because even with the Damian Harris injury, I still do think that's going to be a committee there in New England. But yeah, Melvin Gordon is an easy pick. Moose coming out says, is Underdog available in Germany? My man, I'm sorry. No, Underdog Fantasy is only going to be available in the United States, and there are a couple states it's not available in, and Canada. I will go ahead and let you know what states Underdog Fantasy is not available in. Underdog Fantasy is more in line. Of course, I can't say it's exactly like DFS, but like in Texas, we don't have sports betting, but we do have Underdog Fantasy. Okay, Underdog Fantasy ineligible states. States that Underdog is not available in: Connecticut, Hawaii, Idaho, Nevada, Louisiana, Montana, Washington, Delaware, Iowa, and I believe Michigan. I'm assuming Alaska is not available. I'm about to be in Alaska. If they're telling me Underdog Fantasy is available in Alaska, oh, my trip is going to be so much better. I've been under the impression that I am not going to be able to hop into Underdog drafts next week. If I can, I will be a happy man. Happy man. Okay, so yeah, I guess we go with one Denver player in the last round. Do we just go ahead, double down on this offense, take Tim Patrick here? I have been drafting Tim Patrick and KJ Hamler way more, and I repeat, way more than I'm taking. Of course, y'all know I've never drafted Courtland Sutton. I'm not taking Courtland Sutton in the third round like a sicko. But even Jerry Jeudy, who I do believe is going to be the wide receiver one in Denver this upcoming season, like Jerry Jeudy with where he went in this draft, personally, I don't think the target share is going to be nearly as concentrated in Denver as what we saw in Seattle with Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, and Tyler Lockett. I do expect them to spread the ball out a little bit more, just given the personnel that they have in Denver and how talented you have Tim Patrick and KJ Hamler as receivers. So I'm not necessarily expecting it to be the same split. And for that reason, I think that if we are trying to find some strong values in Denver, in a best ball format, especially, I really like Patrick. I really like KJ Hamler a little bit later. Caleb coming out says, W draft guide. Thank you, my man. I will say, I put so much work into this draft guide this year, and it is definitely heartwarming to see all the kind messages that we have about the draft guide. I don't think we've had a single person say something bad to us about the draft guide, which I wouldn't expect. Like I said, we put so much work into that, and it's definitely the best piece of work I've ever put out, regardless of what you're looking at, regardless of video, live stream. We've released, this offseason, we released over 500 pages of written content. And what else? Last year, obviously, we had our draft guide. We had our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide last year. This one blows everything out of the water. Ben coming out says, you will love Alaska. I am pretty excited. I'll like it a lot more if they have Underdog drafts there. I assume that Alaska didn't have Underdog. Let me read this again. Connecticut, Hawaii, Idaho, Nevada, Louisiana, Montana, Washington, Delaware, Iowa, and Michigan. So yeah, it sounds like I can play Underdog in Alaska, which is going to be great because I told this the other day, but I recently had that road trip from Florida to Texas, and I drove through every state, of course, play an Underdog, and then get to Louisiana, try to fire up an Underdog draft. Says Underdog not available in Louisiana. I was like, oh my God. Okay. The next 5 hours are going to be absolutely brutal. But Trevor Lawrence goes here 135. Of course, we need to have quarterbacks making it back to us. I need QB. This point, the players we're going to be looking at in terms of the stacks we can have on this team, really Carson Wentz. I think that's going to be about it. So let's try to save it. Let's try to figure out what we can do. Maybe if Dameon Pierce falls, we go ahead, we take Dameon Pierce just so that way we can get Davis Mills at the very end and maybe get some correlation between this. I don't know. I'm trying to jump through hoops, trying to do some mental gymnastics here, convincing myself that we are not completely dead based on the quarterback position, but we probably are. We probably are. QBs are even available. Matt Ryan is always someone you can backdoor into, because you can take Ryan and then Alec Pierce, Damian Pierce off the board. I'm going to go ahead. We're going to take Jahan Dotson here. I think that we are more likely to get a running back making it back to us that we like than a receiver. And on top of it, we are already planning on drafting Carson Wentz at the very end. Of course, now that we are in a live stream and I'm saying that out loud, probably not going to be able to. I think that we are probably going to have someone sniping us on Carson Wentz, and we're going to have to sit here and cry about it, yada, yada, yada. But no, I'm going to draft this as if I was a normal drafter, as if we weren't getting sniped. And in a normal draft, we would go ahead, we would take Jahan Dotson here, and we would throw up a prayer to the heavens, which, of course, this is not going to happen. Of course, it is highly unlikely, 99.9999% chance it is not going to happen. But we're going to throw up a prayer and see if Carson Wentz can get back to his MVP type season. Of course, he didn't win the MVP. I understand. But we've seen a ceiling from Carson Wentz before. That was impressive. And if somehow, some way, which is highly unlikely, but that's why they're so cheap, this Washington football team can put it together and can be respectable, then maybe this team has some upside. Robert Tunyon goes, we do go ahead and get a running back that we are looking at. We are going to get Darrell Henderson. Just looking at how those tiers broke down, I thought it was a lot more likely we found one of those running backs falling to us that we liked at their value compared to the other wide receivers in that range. That's why I was comfortable going Jahan Dotson and then seeing what running back between the combination of Michael Carter Jr., Isaiah Spiller, Nyheim Hines, and Darrell Henderson made it back to us. Looks like we get Darrell Henderson. He will be a running back, almost similar to Melvin Gordon, and then he should be playing in a committee at the beginning portion of the season with Cam Akers. And if an injury were to occur to Cam Akers, which, hell, we saw it last year, then all of a sudden Darrell Henderson is a 3-down player. But if anything, he's actually probably going to have a larger role if that happens than he did last year, because remember, Sony Michel's not there anymore. Sony Michel is over in Miami, so it should help out Darrell Henderson's actual upside. Okay. Oliver coming out says 40 more likes. Yes, we get, I think at this point, it's like 30 more likes in the live stream. We get 250 likes in the live stream. We are going to go ahead. We're going to fire up another draft. Of course, thank you all so much for everybody coming out to the channel, coming out, just hanging out with us. And if you have not done so already, please go down there, subscribe, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up. That way you can go ahead. You can hop in some real money fantasy football drafts with us. And literally with just a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK. And with code FLOCK, they match your deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So it's essentially free, but you're going to get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, which will 100% help you crush your league this upcoming season. But after we take Darrell Henderson, I think at this point, I'm fine with anything going off the board other than QB. Quarterbacks going off is going to be brutal for us. Like, let's be honest. We are desperate for these quarterbacks. We need some players making it back. We're probably going to be looking at Watson later just to try to find some type of ceiling at all with this team, because if we don't, we are not going to have a ceiling. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Caleb says 284 pages on the draft guide is insane. I'd never be able to do that. This is something that I honestly am so happy with the draft guide this year and how early we got it done, because of course it's not like I've had a full-time job in fantasy football for a decade. I'm learning this stuff as we go over the past few years. And I used to say last year in the offseason, those videos that I make for y'all every single day, they used to take me hours to do the research for, hours to go through and bring up every relevant piece of information that I could find on a player. Whereas now, if I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to make a video and talk about Antonio Gibson, I've already done the research. I've already put that time in where it's in that draft guide, where it was, of course, hundreds of hours to go through and write that guide. Now it's saving me so much time when I make those videos, because I'm not having to do those hours of research every single day to make those videos. It's already done in that draft guide. So it seems like it's a lot. In reality, I'm probably saving a lot of time in the long run. Now, Daniel Jones is a player that I'd be fine taking, because with Daniel Jones, we can draft him, and then we can look at Wan'Dale Robinson a little bit later on. And also with Daniel Jones, this is a quarterback that does have some rushing upside at all. So if we don't get a stack, it's not like it's the end of the world. Of course, we definitely want to make sure that we are bringing in another pass catcher for New York if we get him, but not the end of the world if it doesn't happen. We have 7 receivers ready. And with our wide receivers with Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, Bateman, Renfro, Tim Patrick, and Jahan Dotson, we maybe don't even want to bring in another receiver. Is this team on auto draft? No, they're not. They're queuing up players. They just took their 4th tight end. That team that just took Gerald Everett, I was not paying close enough attention to this. That team that just took Gerald Everett, look at the team from 9. This is the team that took Josh Allen in the 1st. They have Mark Andrews, Zach Ertz, Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett. Dear God, looks like we thought the quarterback position was going to be a little bit out of whack in this draft. No, I guess what you really needed to worry about, the tight end position with that team taking 4. Helps us. We already have our guys with Kittle and Dallas Goedert. Of course, we are done at the position. Let's see if we get... We have to go ahead. We have to take Daniel Jones. We don't have a QB yet. I do think that Daniel Jones does have a decent amount of upside if you see Brian Daboll be able to turn this New York Giants offense around, which a lot of people assume that he can. And on top of it, the man could get to 400 rushing yards in a season, which matters so much for fantasy football. You don't have to be Lamar Jackson, but if you can get to 300, 350, 400 rushing yards in a season, it's going to be a pretty big freaking deal. Okay. So after we take Daniel Jones there, pick 164, let's see what these other guys do. And only 5 more likes in the live stream. We'll fire up another draft after this. Of course, thank you all so much for being a part of the flock, hanging out with me. Henry says, Mason, you know what you need to do in the next round. Do not. I got you, my man. I got you. I'm not going to say it out loud because he will go if we say it out loud. But just based on your tone of voice, based on you telling me, Mason, let's get to business. Let's make the pick. Don't get cute. Don't try to wait for ADP. We'll get our guy. Let me know if I'm right when I take this guy. Also, go in the chat. Let me know who you think I'm talking about right now. I think you're right, Henry. I think we can't wait. I think if I shouldn't even say anything. Shouldn't say anything. Let me know in the chat who you think we're going for. Okay. John coming out says, what kind of draft are you doing next? We're going to get a puppy draft after this one. We're simply not going to be doing any Best Ball Mania drafts on the live stream anymore. I'm sorry, guys. I'm about to max out Best Ball Mania. And whenever there's not a puppy draft available, I want to be able to have about like 10 entries left. That way I can do them at the gym. So it's going to be simple. If there are puppy drafts available, we are going to hop in puppy drafts. If not, I'm going to create private drafts, send them out in the live stream, send them out just for y'all, and we can create our own 12-team leagues. But I don't think I'm going to do any more Best Ball Manias on the live stream. Clutch Cow says, Sam Howell, my man, how did you know? Ben says, Sammy. Walter says, Fuller. Looks like a lot of other people knew who we were talking about. Looks like, let's see some names that got it right. Foster knew it. Who else knew it? Noah knew it as well. We're going to have to go ahead. I understand. Yes, he can easily miss this season. I get it. I understand it. It's a possibility. This is a $5 underdog draft with $75,000 for first, where there's that tournament structure in weeks 15, 16, and 17. So I'm sorry. We are going to have to go ahead. We are going to have to take Deshaun Watson here. We have no other option. We are looking for a way that we can access an elite level ceiling and actually have a realistic shot during that fantasy football playoff tournament, assuming that we get there. So we're swinging for the fences here. We can easily strike out, but as we need to go and get that clip, if you ain't first, you're last, to quote the one and great Ricky Bobby. But after we take Watson, we have Cameron Brate, Julio Jones, Evan Ingram off the board. Good thing we see these tight ends gone. Get these tight ends. Let's not have to think about them. And honestly, after we make our next pick, we're probably going to go ahead. We're probably going to fire up the next draft. I don't think people are too interested in seeing our last 2 picks. We will go ahead. I'll let y'all know who we take from a roster construction standpoint. Of course, it's going to matter in a best ball format. I don't think y'all are too interested in seeing the other picks in this range, though. So I'll let y'all know mine, but we'll just fire up another one as soon as I get pick 188 off the board. Wes says, that's awesome to send out the links for your private drafts. Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. The thing is, when there's a puppy draft available, in my opinion, it's so much fun to go out there. Not only, of course, have the $5 buy-in and try to win a life-changing amount of money with $75,000, but it's also fun from a strategy perspective to think through what does give our roster a little unique twist and at the same time, correlation and the ability to access that elite level upside for weeks 15, 16, and 17. Why we take Watson here, of course. So we will fire up a lot of those private drafts. I like the private drafts. I like the tournament drafts as well. I like both of them. So I want to almost mix it up 50-50. That way we can have the best of both worlds. And I personally can have fun because there's nothing more fun legitimately in my day. I look forward to this every single night, firing up these live streams. And I want to keep it that way. I want to continue to love these. And the number one way is going to be mixing up between those private and tournaments. But David coming out says, drafted Cooper Kupp in the first, Jefferson. My man. All right, okay. David says, drafted Cooper Kupp in the first, Justin Jefferson in the second. David, let me know what happened here. Let me know if A, you're playing in a Superflex league, B, you're playing in a league with 6 teams, or C, you're playing in a league with children. Was it A, B, or C? I can tell you it wasn't a regular 12-team PPR, 1-quarterback fantasy football league where people knew what they were doing. Of course, it wasn't that. But was it a Superflex format? Was it a league with children? Or was it a 6-team league? Okay. So, after we take Watson, do we just go ahead and get Wentz? We'll see what falls. See what falls. As we can also, with Watson, of course, we're going to be looking for some potential stacks a little bit later on. We can go ahead and get David Bell in round 17. We can get David Bell there consistently, so maybe we want to just reach on Wentz here. Carson Wentz, ADP of 201. Yeah, I don't think we want to risk it. We're probably just going to take Carson Wentz. Henry says, or was it a draft with grandma and her friends? Guys, come on. Don't be disrespectful. Clearly, grandma and her friends would know not to let Justin Jefferson fall to the second round. Don't disrespect David's grandma like that. That is just rude as hell. Okay, so Mark Ingram goes pick 186. Devin Duvernay off the board. I guess Watkins falls 17 picks in his ADP. I'm not taking Watkins very often. But the thing is, we do have Aaron Jones. I guess we can make that correlated bet on the Green Bay Packers offense. We're getting him at a massive value as well. Let's go ahead. Let's take Sammy Watkins here. Then after that, let's queue up Carson Wentz. I'll do the rest of this. I'll do the next 2 rounds on my phone. Let me just scoot this over so we can fire up our next draft. We're going to be hopping in that puppy draft here, that $5 buy-in, $75,000 for first. There are 8 spots open for people wanting to hop in this draft right now. 8 spots open. Let me grab my phone so I'm ready to be able to fire up those last 2 picks. But here, pick 4. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. We got Ted out here in the draft with us at the 102. We have a couple other members of the flock here with Newton. We have, I don't think we've seen Mr. Cali Pappy out here in a while. Let me know if you're in the chat right now and you're able to get in this draft. Let me know if you're in the chat and if you're able to get in this draft. I am happy that we are going to be able to get one Mr. Justin Jefferson. Now, no, we're not going to get him like David in the second round. Sadly, we're not going to get him like David in the second round, but it is what it is. We'll still get a fine value on a Mr. Justin Jefferson here at the Big 104. And if it's not Justin Jefferson, it will be Cooper Kupp. If it's not Cooper Kupp, it will be Christian McCaffrey. We'll get one of those guys we can be excited about. Okay. Ghost Rider says, does Underdog automatically put in your best lineup or just a regular money draft? Okay. So no, Underdog automatically puts in your best lineup. That's how I'm able to do hundreds of these drafts and then really focus in on those drafts that I love and care about during the season in my regular leagues with your friends, because there you obviously need to submit your starting lineup every single week. On Underdog Fantasy, it is automatically done for you at the very end of every week. So it's no time commitment during the season. That's how I'm able to go ahead and to draft 400 plus teams on Underdog every single offseason. And if you want to draft on Underdog, if you want to have some fun with us, make sure you go sign up to Underdog Fantasy. Link in the description of the video, link in the live chat. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK. We get in these drafts every single night because they're so damn fun. And when you sign up with promo code FLOCK, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. So it's essentially free. And you get our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. Damn near 300 pages of information of high quality content. But it looks like Ted in here is sniping us on Justin Jefferson. We thought we were going Jefferson. Instead, we're going to take Christian McCaffrey at pick 4, but Am I supposed to cry? Am I supposed to sit here and whine about getting CMC? Hell no. I'm not going to sit here and cry about getting Christian McCaffrey. We are just fine with Christian McCaffrey at pick 4. I'm honestly more excited about it now that we have Baker Mayfield coming over, because I think the floor and ceiling combination of the Carolina Panthers offense with Baker Mayfield, even though he's not a good NFL quarterback, but he is better than, dear God, he's better than Sam Darnold, all right? So I think that the floor and ceiling combination of the offensive environment is going to be a little bit better for CMC. So I'm excited about this here. Devontae Adams going before Dalvin Cook and Najee Harris. CeeDee Lamb going before Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris, and Travis Kelce. Looks like it's going to be a very wide receiver heavy draft based on what we've seen so far. So very wide receiver heavy room. Okay, in our last round on that other draft, we're just going to be taking a running back. We need a 5th RB. Okay, Travis Kelce goes here, pick 13. I think you do have to be pretty excited if you walk away with Najee Harris and Kelce at the 1-2 turn, even if didn't love the Najee Harris price point when he's going at pick 8. Zach says, Mason, what are the odds you bring back the record keeper on your whiteboard? So we used to have that. If y'all followed us a few years ago, I used to, for all our dynasty leagues, keep our record out there in the background. The issue is with the quote unquote record on here, Underdog Fantasy, you're not going up against teams head to head every single week. You're not necessarily having a record. You have a standing within your 12 team league, and across the 400 plus teams that I would have, it would be so damn hard. It would be almost impossible for me to be able to track that successfully and track that easily for y'all. And even if I were to be able to, like I've already said, like if I was to create an average, I don't think an average would help if I go through and I go, okay, I'm in 5th place here, 3rd place here, 1st place, 12th place, and then just create an average placement of all our teams, because I don't think you should be trying to strive for the highest average place across your portfolio. I think you should be trying to strive for the highest upside with 5 to 6% of your teams. I would love if my average place across our entire portfolio was 9th, was 8th, but somehow, some way, we managed to have a whopping, say, 15, 16, 17% of our teams in 1st place. I don't care if the rest of the teams are in dead last. If we could get an astonishing, say, double the average or triple the average win rate for 1st place, I think that'd be fantastic. Zach says the amount of leagues you're in now compared to back then is ridiculous. Yes, that is true. And back then, people still thought I was crazy. Back then, I was in about 15 weekly managed leagues every single week. People thought I was crazy, but oh dear God, how's fantasy football has changed by then. I mean, now it's almost normal for people to be in 15 leagues, especially on Underdog. Of course, Underdog, you're not managing those leagues on a week-to-week basis during the season, so you can be in 1,000 of them, and once there's kickoff, hell, it doesn't matter if you were in 1,000 or 0, it's all the same to you. Okay, so after we take Leonard Fournette, we have A.J. Brown, Nick Chubb. I have to take Leonard Fournette when he goes here. If you're looking at the amount of teams that are going to have CMC when Christian McCaffrey usually goes at pick 1 or pick 2 and Leonard Fournette on the same roster, that number is going to be very, very small. Now, I will say I did end up getting Leonard Fournette, I believe, at the 303 or maybe even the 304 earlier this morning. I was really surprised by that start. I wish I could go through and have an easier stream setup where I could just pull up those drafts quickly for y'all. Okay, Primer says, any possible chance for a 3rd draft? How about this? If somehow, some way, y'all can create a new girlfriend for me. Y'all can go. Find me a new girlfriend online real quick. That should be fine with me doing a 3rd draft. Then yes, there's a possibility. But I hate to do this. Javonte Williams at the 304. We'll take the value. We will try to figure out how it works out later. Of course, at this point, it looks like we're going to go with the hyper-fragile build. Looks like we're going to take 3 running backs here with Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, Javonte Williams, and then not really look at the running back position the rest of the way. Let's see if this works out. Probably won't, but we're going to try it. We're going to try it nonetheless. And of course, all jokes aside, if I had to throw out a like number for us to fire up another draft, keep in mind, I'm saying something I know we're not going to be able to get to. That's the point of me saying this number, because I don't want to do another draft after this one. I probably shouldn't do another draft after this one. But if we were to get to 460 likes in the live stream, we'll fire up another one. Primer says 450. I'll raise you 10. 460 likes in the live stream. We've had over 2,000 views on the stream. I'm telling you now, we're not going to get to it. But if I have to play this game, we'll call the mark at 460. And you know what we need at this point? We really need receivers making it back. Please, please do not pass on these running backs. Now, if James Conner makes it back to us, we're taking James Conner. Like, if we have some crazy value, we will go ahead. We will take another RB. Kamara goes pick 35. Conner goes 36. All right, we're good. We're good here. We don't have to worry. Henry says, I thought you were going to say 1,000 likes. 460 is way too low of a number. Rondo says, Mason, I love watching, but I hope for your sake we don't get to 460. Guys, we're not going to get to 460 likes. I promise you. We don't have to worry about that. I'm out here every single night. I know how many likes we get to, and it's not going to be 460. But we have Justin Herbert going pick 38. Fine for us. Not really considering Herbert here. Well, we need receivers. Dear God. Let's get some wide receiver help. Oh, you know what would save this team? Make this team so good. Put it all together. We start with 3 running backs in a row, which y'all know I love to do. Now, what I love to do also is get some Courtland Sutton value falling to us. If we get Courtland Sutton here at pick 45, or Gabriel Davis. Courtland Sutton or Gabriel Davis here would just be the bomb.com. I'd be excited about that. But let's queue them up. See if we are able to get our 2 guys. If not, this draft is ruined. Henry says, if only you could get Sutton. Yeah, my man. Looks like it's happening. Looks like we are going to get our guy. Zach says, this feels like a Michael Thomas draft. My man, every time I step into the draft room, I look around and I go, you know what? This does feel like a Michael Thomas draft. It feels like a good day to draft some Michael Thomas and crap our guys off the board. We no longer have these shots to get Courtland Sutton. What are we going to do now? Dear God. I think now we just panic, right? Now we panic, or let's go ahead. We'll take one Mr. Patty Mahomes. We'll pass on wide receiver. This is I got excited when we pulled the 4 spot. But this is what I hate about drafting with y'all. Scout says you're going to mislead a new viewer by making them think Sutton is a great pick. Hell, at least they'll think I wanted Courtland Sutton to pick 45 compared to where some people are taking Courtland Sutton at the middle to the end of the 3rd round. Okay. Like, if you're a new viewer, don't take Courtland Sutton at all. But if you are going to take him at the 4 or 5 turn instead of in the middle of the 3rd. Here, after we take Mahomes, there's a player I have in mind that we're wanting on the way back around. Lamar goes pick 47 to top dog. Obviously, the player we were wanting wasn't Lamar Jackson, so doesn't hurt us. I think maybe if you are of the hive mind that it matters so much to get your week 17 correlation, yada, 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 we can sit here and go, oh, we got Javonte Williams and Mahomes. Great. Reality, don't really care. Okay. Come on, guys. Draft Gabriel Davis. The man's fallen 8 picks in his ADP. Come on, Ted. You know you want Gabriel Davis. You know you want Gabriel Davis. Look at this value. Look at that beautiful value making it to you. He's screaming your name. He's going, top dog, pick me, pick me. Does he get him? Okay. Are we lagging here? He goes Brandon Cooks. Okay, Brandon Cooks wasn't someone we were going to be taking regardless. There's a single name that I would be excited about. Hopefully this team right before. He goes Dalton Schultz. We're going to take Jerry Jeudy. Yes, we're going to pass up on the 10-pick value in ADP and Gabriel Davis. I can't take Gabriel Davis here. I don't care where his ADP is. In my opinion, a Much, much better wide receiver. A wide receiver that does correlate with Javonte Williams a little bit earlier. And I know y'all are tired of me talking about the Jerry Jeudy and Courtland Sutton splits. And at this point, it's just lazy for me to do so. It's lazy for me to bring up the splits of Courtland Sutton in games where Jerry Jeudy plays, because Jerry Jeudy dominates as the alpha wide receiver one. I can tell you, like we've done so many times before, that over the past 2 years in games they played together, Jerry Jeudy's averaged 46 receiving yards per game, which isn't great. But if you look at Courtland Sutton averaging 23 in those games, Jerry Jeudy's averaged double him. We can tell you those, but instead of that, I don't even want to look at splits. Let's not try to paint a fancy picture or anything. Let's just go ahead and let's look at what we had with yards per route run for both of these wide receivers. Let's go ahead and look at the yards per route run that we had from Courtland Sutton versus Jerry Jeudy. Keep in mind, Jerry Jeudy's about 4 years younger than Courtland Sutton. You had 1.9 yards per route run for Jerry Jeudy compared to 1.5 for Courtland Sutton. I am all about taking Jerry Jeudy out of value compared to Courtland Sutton going in the majority of drafts in the third round. Here, Sutton's value wasn't as bad as it usually is, but still, y'all get the point. Okay, we have the same team deciding to take Kyler and Justin Herbert. Reaches on TJ Hawkinson. We have a reach on Dalton Schultz in this draft as well. Looks like tight ends are definitely sliding up draft boards. Oh, interesting. We had Mark Andrews going before his ADP as well. Interesting. Jeffrey says, how is Short Hammer TV in 2 drafts right now? I'm assuming he's in your draft on Underdog Fantasy as well. Guys, I'm not lying. Whenever I'm not on the live stream, if I'm drafting on Underdog Fantasy, like say I'm on the gym or the Stairmaster or something, I'm in 2 drafts at once. You can get in 10 drafts at once on Underdog Fantasy as long as you can manage it all. Now, personally, I think, especially on your phone, it's hard to be in more than 2 at once. I can manage 2 quite comfortably. If you're on your computer, I think you can get up to 4. At least I've been able to get up to 4. I don't do it very often because it is a waste of time. You're there nonstop. I mean, if I work on my computer, I can have 1 underdog draft pulled up to the side essentially at all times. But once you add more than that, it becomes that's all you're doing. Okay. So A.J. Dillon goes pick 67. Total buns on the clock. Real quick, please go to the chat. If y'all have not done so already, drop a like. And also, I really want to know how many of y'all are new to the flock. How many of y'all just found this live stream? If you are a new viewer and you found us either today, yesterday, the day before, just recently, let me know in the live chat right now. We are going to go ahead. We are going to take our 4th running back. Oh, dear God, I will admit. Not ideal here, ladies and gentlemen. Not ideal here. I do think Elijah Mitchell is the best value on the board. I'm going to try to make it work. We're going to try to build a unique team. We are done drafting running back. We are just absolutely done drafting running back. We are going to be taking Elijah Mitchell pick 69. And then we're just hoping these guys go off. Start taking these running backs, please. Please. Show mercy. Show mercy. Take some of these running backs off the board. Scout says, are there any free best ball drafts just for fun on Underdog Fantasy? No, there are no free drafts on Underdog Fantasy. They're all paid leagues, which is why, in my opinion, this ADP is so damn valuable and more valuable than any other ADP set that you're going to find. They do have $3 drafts. So if you go sign up, use promo code FLOCK, say deposit $10, get our draft guide, then they add $10 to your account. It's essentially free because you're getting that additional $10. You can fire up 6 $3 drafts and become a very strong drafter compared to your other league mates that aren't getting that practice in. But we have Joe Burrow going pick 72, Amari Cooper 73. At this point, we want Russell Wilson. Actually, yeah, I think we want Russ. We're going for a very unique team. Now, of course, it's probably not good. I will be the first person to admit it. Okay. I don't want to talk about it. I do not want to talk about it. Okay. I'm allowed to have a bad draft every once in a while. I'm allowed to have a bad draft every once in a while. We don't know if this one's bad yet, but to be completely honest, it probably will be bad. Okay. Probably will be. So let's fire up Russell Wilson at 76. Of course, in a regular redraft format, I am not drafting another QB after Patrick Mahomes. I would never consider drafting another quarterback after Patrick Mahomes. But here I think it's somewhat intriguing. We will figure out how to find some receivers later on. I don't want to talk about it, guys. I truly don't. I don't. Darth says it still has potential. It has potential, but that's all it has. It's nice to see the Jalen Hurts team taking Trey Lance. It's nice to see that the Justin Herbert and Kyler Murray team have those guys paired up as well. So maybe, just maybe, these other quarterbacks like Rodgers, Derek Carr, they naturally slide up draft boards because so many teams monopolized those elite level QBs. But we'll see. We'll see. Christian says, is there a correlation between draft pick and the stack you're likely to get? 100%. Yeah, like if you just go through and think about this, right? So if you are drafting, say, at the 102, you are never going to be taking Davante Adams. You're never going to be taking CeeDee Lamb because you're never going to be reaching on a Davante Adams or a CeeDee Lamb over, say, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase at wide receiver. And at the same time, Davante Adams and CeeDee Lamb are never going to be making it back to you at the 2-3 turn. So you are not really going to have it as a potential to get that Dallas Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, and Dak Prescott stack at the very beginning of your draft. However, those guys in Davante Adams and CeeDee Lamb, regardless of if they go early, say at pick 9, 10, or if they go late at, say, pick 15, 16, they're going at the 1-2 turn. They're going over in that direction of the draft. And that's also where Dak Prescott, that's also where Derek Carr go with these drafts according to their ADP. And a large portion of that is players wanting to get their stack with that top receiving option. So 100%, if you draw, say, the 110, you realize, okay, I'm not going to get the Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins stack. Justin Jefferson will never make it to me. Versus if you're at the 110, you're like, okay, yeah, it's definitely possible for me to pair up CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott on the same team. Okay, so let's go through and scroll this down. We have a donation coming out from Rocket Chat. Says, this man's hustle is bar none. Came last season, seen him on my feed all through last year, through the offseason. Quality, educated, unbiased opinions. If Ryan Seacrest and Matthew Berry had a love child. Thank you, my man. I appreciate you. And hopefully one day we'll be after that Matthew Berry job. Just left ESPN. What I would do if I were you, I'd reach out to me. Maybe the Flock Network can purchase ESPN. Of course, ESPN can't purchase the Flock Network, but maybe we can go the other way around. Thank God we get one of these wide receivers falling. We need a receiver. Let me know, who do you want between Kadarius Toney and Christian Kirk? Please let me know who you're wanting. I'm going to go with y'all. We don't have correlation one way or another. I don't think it really matters. I personally prefer Christian Kirk. That's going to be my guy. But let me know what you're thinking. Scout says Kirk. 6 letters says Toney. Cameron says Kirk. Riz says Kirk. Okay, Kirk. Y'all are agreeing with me on Christian Kirk. We're going to go Christian Kirk. Y'all are saying Christian Kirk. We're going to go Kirk. And you know who we really need on the way back around? One Mr. Sky Moore. That's who we need on the way back around to pair up with our Patrick Mahomes. Would have been really nice, with hindsight, of course, if we could go back, hop in a time machine, and instead of taking Elijah Mitchell, going with the wide receiver, going with Amari Cooper, and then here at pick 93, being able to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire, getting that Kansas City Chiefs stack with Mahomes, the potential passing down running back there in Kansas City, and then at the same time, being able to follow it up with Sky Moore, pick 100, getting the double stack. That would have been probably ideal. Of course, it's a lesson learned. I'm not used to Clyde Edwards-Helaire falling to the end of the 8th round, but that's what happens now. Clyde Edwards-Helaire does fall to the end of the 8th round now, so we need to adjust. We need to realize that it's probably fine to be passing on Elijah Mitchell a little bit earlier, even though I just started drafting Elijah Mitchell. Like, we really weren't drafting Elijah Mitchell at all. I am getting my ownership percentage up. I think we are closing in on about 8% Elijah Mitchell. Okay, Kadarius Toney off the board. Clyde Edwards-Helaire gone. Good. Okay. This is what we're looking at. We have no other option. Not taking Dawson Knox here. Dawson Knox is not my guy. I don't understand if someone wants to chase him, wants to chase that touchdown upside in that Buffalo Bills offense. Personally, it's not for me. We need a wide receiver almost regardless. See what Todd Dog does. He has 2 QBs in Lamar Jackson, Kirk Cousins, 2 running backs in Chubb and Antonio Gibson. He has Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Brandon Cooks, Adam Thielen. So he does have the double stack. He takes Rashad Penny. Interesting. I'm not a big Penny fan. I'm not taking Rashad Penny over Kenneth Walker. We get our guy in Sky Moore. Hell yes. Pairing up Sky Moore and Patrick Mahomes. We needed it. There's nothing other to say than we desperately, and I repeat, desperately needed Sky Moore on this team. But let's move this down. And now at receiver, I'm not gonna do it. I was gonna try to say that we weren't horrible, but I need to be realistic with myself. We are still very bad at receiver. We still got Jerry Jeudy, Christian Kirk, and Sky Moore as our 3 top wide receivers. Now, of course, we have the elite running backs, we have the elite QBs, but we're still in a bad spot. Let's not kid ourselves here. And Duke coming out with the donation. Thank you, my man. Says, would you trade CMC for Najee Harris in a dynasty league? Hell yes. Go get Najee Harris. Najee Harris, while yes, he's a much older second-year player than you would expect from an average guy. He stayed all 5 years at Alabama. At the same time, he does have the rookie contract. He has the 5th-year option as well because he was a first-round selection in the NFL draft. So, yes, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Najee Harris over Christian McCaffrey in dynasty quite easily. Wes says, just signed up for Underdog. Hopefully going to jump in some drafts with you soon and take something. My man, thank you. I appreciate you. That's all I got to say. I appreciate you. Be on the lookout when you sign up for Underdog. Of course, you will get our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. But when you sign up, you will notice that 100% deposit match in your account right away. But it does take about an hour for that welcome email to be sent out that has our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. So you will get that 100% deposit match right away when you use promo code FLOCK, but it will take about an hour for you to get that draft guide. Okay, so Christian Watson goes 107. Aaron Rodgers off the board of the 108. Hopefully we get Derek Carr gone soon as well. And I don't know if I remember this incorrectly, but was Matthew Stafford always going before Rodgers and Derek Carr? Let me look at what this ADP looked like a while ago. I know Aaron Rodgers a while ago was going way before, and I repeat, way before Derek Carr. And Derek Carr has trended up while Aaron Rodgers has trended down. I just can't really remember, where did Stafford open up in these contests? Okay, so going back to the middle of May, Stafford has fallen 4.9 picks. Trey Lance has risen almost 2 entire rounds. Bro's fallen 6 picks. Jalen Hurts is up 3 picks. Justin Fields has fallen 9. Where's Stafford? Stafford's fallen, actually. Stafford's fallen. You've had Aaron Rodgers falling a little bit more, but yeah, no, Stafford was always going before Rodgers. It's not like Derek Carr rose a ton. It's more that Aaron Rodgers fell a lot. Okay, so we have Garrett Wilson, Tyler Boyd off the board. I would have really liked those guys. We can't take Derek Carr. Can't take these running backs, even if we do like the value of the RBs. Melvin Gordon and James Cook are some of my most drafted running backs in fantasy so far this year. Ramondre Stevenson was someone that I was fine at his ADP. I wasn't screaming that he was some massive value earlier in the year. But here at this point, I don't think he's fine. I'm not taking Ramondre Stevenson. Like, I easily prefer James Cook over Ramondre Stevenson. I don't even view them in a similar light. Okay. This is our plan. This is our plan. Hopefully Total Buns decides to go Derek Carr. They don't have a quarterback yet. They go Derek Carr. Hell yes. We're going to go ahead. We're going to get Tim Patrick. We're going to get that, I guess, triple stack at this point with Russell Wilson. We have Javonte Williams. We have Jerry Jeudy. We took Tim Patrick in the last draft as well. I've already gone through and said this. Well, I took Jerry Jeudy here because we are desperately needing wide receiver, and Jerry Jeudy fell about 6 picks according to his ADP. I am still not a massive fan of Jerry Jeudy or Courtland Sutton at their value, where I am looking to try to get some pieces of this Denver Broncos passing offense. I'm fine with the number 3 receiver and number 4 receiver in this offense. I'm fine with Tim Patrick. I'm fine with KJ Hamler. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Tim Patrick here. I think it makes a lot of sense with this Russell Wilson build. And then we'll hopefully get Mecole Hardman on the way back around. David coming out with the donation. Thank you, my man. Says, Elliott, David Montgomery, or Javonte Williams. We're going to go Javonte Williams over the 3 just because the offense he's going to be playing in, an ascending player. I think at this point he's going to be the most talented guy out of those 3. And then with our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, of course, with a $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy, you can get this, or on flockfantasy.com. You can see all our rankings, and you'll see that we do have Ezekiel Elliott and David Montgomery pretty close together. Let me give you the overall ranking that we have for these players, not necessarily just the positional ranking. I have Ezekiel Elliott ranked at running back 38, and I have David Montgomery ranked, not running back 38, pick 38 overall, and we have David Montgomery at 43 overall. And of course, that's not going to be for Underdog. Underdog, you have to slide up the wide receivers a little bit more. Our 2022 fantasy football draft guide is going to be for your regular standard redraft league. Yeah. David says, Mike Gesicki not expected to receive the extension, ? Yeah, I think that's what's been reported for pretty much the entire offseason, right? Colin says, just a heads up, I already drafted the winning team, so you might want to save your money. My man, I literally was going to make a video and say that. So don't be mad when I steal that from you. I thought about that at the gym. Thought it'd be really funny. Go. Everyone, bad news, horrible news. I drafted the winning team on Underdog Fantasy already. Y'all already all lost. So don't be mad when I steal that from you because I thought of it this morning. Okay. I know I can't prove it, but I thought of that intro to a video this morning. But hopefully we get Mecole Hardman. I'm assuming we will. Like, really, the only reason Mecole Hardman's ADP is even this high is because the Patrick Mahomes team usually reaches on him a little bit here. Yeah, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Mecole Hardman. We are going to get our double stack with Patrick Mahomes. Now we don't have to worry about Kansas City, Denver. We got our guys with our QBs. And I don't want to talk about this team. I don't want to say anything. Let's just move on, okay? I have to recap it if I have to. At running back, CMC, Leonard Fournette, Javonte Williams, Elijah Mitchell. We have some pretty good quarterbacks with Patrick Mahomes and Russell Wilson. At receiver, we got bad receivers. The hope is that in a best ball format, we can make it work. Now, it's a long shot. It's definitely just a hope at this point, but hell, if you don't have hope, what do you have? That's a real question I got to ask. If you don't have hope here, what do we have? So, at receiver, Jerry Jeudy, Christian Kirk, Sky Moore, Tim Patrick, Mecole Hardman. All we got to hope for is some quarterbacks going off the board, some tight ends making it back to us. I don't even know outside of that. Okay, so Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Fields, go, good. Oh, dear God. So we're only drafting 2 QBs. We're only drafting 4 running backs. We're going to need 3 tight ends. So we're going to end up drafting 9 wide receivers. So maybe in a best ball format, we can make it work. So Ronald Jones goes at pick 130. Good for us. At any green box, any purple box we see, which is good. We just need to applaud once we see it happen. Okay, Adam coming out with a donation. Thank you, my man. It says, Jameson Williams for Devontae Smith. What are your thoughts? I'm assuming you're speaking from a dynasty fantasy football perspective. I do think it definitely comes down to your roster construction. If I go ahead, if I pull up my 2022 fantasy football rankings, dynasty rankings, I don't even know how much these will help you, just because from a dynasty perspective, going out of your way and trading for Jameson Williams is so league dependent, because I want to say with Jameson Williams, you're not really going to have production this upcoming season, given how late in the year his injury actually was. And also DJ Chark is obviously there this upcoming season, but DJ Chark should be gone next year. If you're looking at my rankings, I have Jameson Williams 1 tier ahead of Devonta Smith, but I'd be fine if you wanted Smith, if you were a team that was looking to contend this upcoming season. Okay, so we have Cole Kmet, Jahan Dotson, Jameson Williams. So Gesicki, I'm assuming the news is not expected to receive contract extension. I feel like everybody has known that, right? I thought that was just pretty well understood at this point. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, Albert, you have Russell Wilson here. We got to get Albert O. I would say yes, 9 times out of 10, but not when we already have Javonte Williams, Jerry Jeudy, and Tim Patrick. At some point, you got to stop drafting the offense. Because in weeks 15, 16, and 17, you are going to have enough one-offs to get there where we can't expect the Denver Broncos to put up 60 points. So let's go ahead and do we just want to take Joshua Palmer? Let's think through this. Yeah, let's take Joshua Palmer. I mean, we are going to go after an AFC West kind of team here where we have those Denver players. We have the Kansas City Chiefs players. So let's go ahead. Let's take Joshua Palmer. I'm moving this down. I'm trying to figure out who do we want after this? Like, do we want to reach on a tight end on the way back around? I honestly think I probably shouldn't even go Albert O. Even if he's a good value here at pick 148. Maybe you make the argument that we should go ahead. I don't know. Ted, obviously, little upset, got sniped on Osborne whenever he already had the double stack there with Kirk Cousins. Riz coming out says Mike Evans for an accurately projected 2023 first, late 2023 first. Say if you're a contender and it's a one quarterback format, Mike Evans. If you're a contender and it's a super flex format, fair deal. If you are not a contender, take the first. Okay, Van Jefferson 145. Burgundy Bet says Mason, yada, 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 week 17 correlation. I know they play in week 17. That's not why we drafted this team. I'm not drafting this team for the week 17 correlation. Please do not think that's why we're doing this. I want to be on board. I do not agree with the week 17 correlation stuff. I agree that weeks 15, 16, and 17 are almost, I don't want to say all that matters, but they matter more than anything else, and it's not even close. But we want to be drafting guys that have elite level ceilings then that are probably going to have lower advance rates. I'm going to be trying to get as much Chris Godwin. I'm going to try to get a lot of Watson. I'm going to try to get a lot of Kamara at a value if we get him in the 4th. And at the same time, going to try to get some Hopkins. Going to try to get some elite level rookies. We're going to go ahead. We'll take Robert Tonyan here. I think with Robert Tonyan, yes, last year he was one of the worst picks in fantasy. It's like a worse version of Dawson Knox last year, if we're going to be honest. It's like Dawson Knox if you didn't have Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley leaving Buffalo, given the fact that he is way jacked up fantasy boards just because of that unsustainable touchdown rate. But now that you have no Devontae Adams there and he's cheaper in fantasy football drafts, I'm willing to draft Robert Tonyan last year where we weren't last season. Okay. But, okay. I told my girlfriend we would end the live stream 30 minutes ago. Also, I think we've ruined this team enough where I'm not excited about talking about this team on the stream anymore. Don't you worry, though. I got great news for you. We will be live tomorrow night with more fantasy football drafts, so make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell next to the subscribe button. I appreciate all of y'all. I hope y'all have a great night, and I do need to get better about this. I told the people in the group chat I would send this out for them. So we have a group chat. About over 6,000 people there. If you want to join, great, join. I don't really care. It's completely free. You don't need an email. You don't need a credit card. You click the link, type your little nickname, whatever you want to be called in the fantasy football group chat. So let's spam this out there. If you want to join, join. If not, it is what it is. I just told the people in the group chat that I would get it out for them. But I appreciate y'all. I hope you have a great day. I hope we get to see you with the live stream tomorrow night. And yeah, thank you again.